Hello, welcome to episode 214 in the Datapack tutorial series, version 1.21.8. We're going to sell anything to villagers. This will probably work in other versions. I'll be very surprised if it doesn't. I'm just slowly moving up to the newer versions. Right, what do I mean anyway? Let me dupe some of that. And in fact, let's check its value. How much is one piece of sandstone worth? Trigger, value, worth 2. Okay, so I should get 64 if I sell these. Do you want these? Money 64. Okay, I can press tab as well, see my money there. Cool. How much is a piece of grey wool worth? Value of 3. Oh, okay. Let's sell 3 of those. So should we get 9? So now we've got 73 money. Yeah. And how much is stone worth? Let's value the entire stack. 64. So stone's only worth 1 each. There we go. We get some items. We bring them to our little villager. And we sell them to him, and our score goes up, our money score. And then maybe we go off to the scoreboard shop, and we start buying other stuff. That's basically what we're going to do. So let's get on and build it now. I don't need a cut because I've already emptied the data pack. So if I do a reload, nothing should work anymore. Let's have a look. Let's do trigger. I could probably still do it because the scoreboard still exists, but nothing happens. So I'm also going to remove that scoreboard as well because I don't want that still existing. So let's remove, there's a lot of scores there left over from when I'm doing testing the Infernal Editions data pack. Trigger, nothing to trigger. Okay, so we reset to default. I'm sorry, but we want to reset to default, and that also means that someone has to go. Bye. Okay, I'm just going to pop a block there because I'm going to get those coordinates in a minute. Let's go over to the data pack. So we've got, sorry, bang the desk. We've got a couple of advancements. We've got admin to summon the villager, and we've got some things in cell, and we're going to use the load and the tick. Okay, now you can add these as you make the data pack. I think I'll start with the summon, because if he's not there, we can't do anything. So, and I'm going to use the old Alt92, the old little backslash there to split things onto multiple lines as well. So let me just put a space in front of that and copy it. Let's, how do you make a villager command? Summon a Minecraft villager. And that's what I want the coordinates for, isn't it? Fill, tab, tab, tab. Let's get those coordinates. Copy. Let's go back. Summon there. Open to give him some data. I'll start using my... I've replaced my little... Let's get that back. That was silly. Put that there. Okay, let's do another one. Put another line there. Right. I'm going to want to tag. Tags. I'll just call him seller. I don't even think I'm going to use this tag. I'm just in the habit of, tag everything. Next line, we need to give him some villager data. Villager data. And what do we need in there? We'll give him a level. Level 99. We'll give him a profession. What should we say? Am I inside? I am inside. Minecraft librarian. And let's give him a type as well. Type Minecraft swamp. Okay, comma, because you're not the last line. And I'm going to give him an active effect as well. Active effect. Effects. Then we open it because it's a list of effects. And then we want one effect. And I'm going to have an ID of Minecraft luck. Why are we making him lucky? Amplifier of 0. I'll answer that question when I don't have to think. Duration of, I want infinite, so I think we just do -1 for that. And show particles, no, so I can put false. Right, why are we making him lucky? We're making him lucky because in our advancement, when we check if we're interacting with a villager, we can check to make sure that villager's got luck. Now, since no villager is going to spawn naturally with luck, we are only going to run that advancement when we interact with our seller. Okay, because I think you can check the tag, but you would be checking it as NPT. So I don't know if this is an NPT check, if it's any better, but it works. And it's only running when we right-click the villager anyway. So summon looks done. Let's get the guy. Let's do a reload. Function. Let's spell function correctly, and we'll do summon. Hello. Can I click on you? Yes, I can, but he's not happy. Okay, he's never happy. Let's do load. Alright, I want somewhere to store the player's money. Scoreboard, objectives, add, money, dummy. Somewhere to score temporary values. Let's copy that. Scoreboard, objectives, add. I'll call it temp value. And it'll be a dummy. Trigger, show value. Okay, so I'll call this one value. So they type trigger value. That makes sense because they're getting the value of the item they're holding. And so this one will have to be a trigger. Now we have to enable the trigger, and we can't do that here because this is a load function. The player won't be on, unless you do reload, the player won't be on the map when this runs. So we'll have to do all the first join stuff. Store item prices. Okay, so we're going to need some data, but let's also do display player's money. Scoreboard, objectives, set display, sidebar, money. Okay, so now when we press tab, we can see how much money they've got. Let me get my little backslash again, because we'll use it again, and we'll do a data modify storage. I'll just use my normal ID data, and we'll have some prices, and we'll set the value to open square brackets. Okay, get rid of that extra space, don't need that. Right, so we'll have, let's say, ID Minecraft stone, and it'll have a cost. I suppose I should call that value really, but I've called it cost. So tough. Copy. Let's do some more stuff. Okay, let's say I think we had grey wool. Let's give that a cost of 2, and let's say this is sandstone. We'll give that a cost of 3, and why not have another one? Let's say yellow wool, and we'll give you a cost of 10. And because this is the last one in the list, we will remove that comma. Okay, so we've got our data set up. So now if we're holding a piece of stone, we can say, what are we holding? It'll come through here, use the ID of the thing we're holding. It'll go, you're holding stone? Okay, that's a cost of 1. Cool. Get rid of that. Right, we need an advancement if we interact with the buyer. So let's pop over to Misode. Let's go to advancement. Criteria, let's call it interact with buyer. We'll add that. Its trigger will be doobity doobity doo. Player interacted with entity. We'll have some conditions. We'll have an entity condition. We'll make it an object. The type, yeah, we might as well put the type. We'll say it has to be a villager, or we won't bother doing anything. And we will check its effects. We will check for luck. That's it. We're not going to specify a value. We're just going to say check for luck. Okay, so now the villager has to have the luck. It did, because remember we put that in the summon command. And we'll have a reward, which will be to run a function. And for that, we'll just put a placeholder. Let's copy that. Let's take it back. Let's put it into interact with buyer. And then let's link that to the interact with buyer function. Okay, that seems good. Let's go to interact with buyer. Revoke the advancement. Advancement revoke for me only. Let's type the namespace, ID, interact with buyer, and let's just say something. Say hi. Okay, let's go back. Reload, right click. Hi. Okay. I don't think we needed to do it that many times. That works. Is the player holding an item? Execute. We'd want an unless items entity at S, and I'm only doing main hand, so we'll specify weapon main hand, but it can be any item, so we'll put a star. Run, return, run, tell raw at S, and we'll have some text and we'll have some color. Text, no item in main hand. Color, red. Save. Let's go back. So if I am holding an item, he should just shake his head. Well, we do the reload will help. I am holding an item, nothing happens. If I'm not holding an item, no item in main hand. Cool. Store the selected item ID. Okay, so we'll do data, modify storage. ID, well this is temp, so we'll put it into temp. Item.id, set from entity, myself, selected item.id. Okay, so we've got the ID, and now we have to calculate how much it costs and everything. So let's do function, sell item macro, with storage, ID temp, item. So now in sell item macro, we will have access to the ID. So if I'm holding a piece of sandstone, it will pass Minecraft sandstone, Minecraft grey wool, Minecraft stone. That we can then use to compare with our list here and get a cost. So that one's done. Let's do that. Let's go to sell item macro. Score store. I'm storing as a score the item count. Yeah, because we want to know how many there are. If they've got a stack, we don't want to just give them the price of one. So let's execute. Store. Result. And let's have temp player as a score. Now, normally I would do sort of temp count, and I've got the hashtag for the player name. That means it won't display on the sidebar, but maybe I want to do a bit of checking. I would say use the hash, but just in case we've got any problems, I'm going to take that off, and that means we can check on the sidebar if the count is correct. And I'm going to store it into that temp value score we made. Run data get from entity at S selected item dot count, and let's just stop there. So let's see the advantage. Let's get money off the scoreboard. Let's see the advantage of not using that hash symbol. No, not below names. Sidebar, please. We've got too many there. Temp value. Okay, so did I not do a reload again? Why does it put money on the sidebar? Did I put that in load? I put sidebar there. Oh dear, we want list there. List. Save. Reload. Okay, so there was a little mistake. Now that's the list. When I press tab, that's the list. So before that was left over from me testing. Okay, let's get temp value back on the side. That's better. Now temp cost is left over from before. This count we're looking at. So we can see count is changing. Okay. We're going to change the others in a minute anyway. So store the items cost. We'll do execute. Store the result as a score. We'll call them temp cost, temp value, Run data get from storage ID data prices, open and close, and say cost, but we're looking for something that has an ID of, and I'm just going to hard code this, ID of Minecraft grey wool. Okay, so it's going to use that grey wool to come into the load, and we should be getting a cost of 2. So let's save that, pop back, remember to do the reload. So we've got a cost of 2 and a count of 1. That's correct, because the 1 is coming from my sandstone and the 2 is hard coded. So let's remove that hard coding and turn it into a macro. Instead of using grey wool, remember we are passing, not there, remember we are passing the ID here. So we've got ID. So let's say not grey wool. I want you instead to use the ID that I passed you and $sign on the front. Let's reload. So what have we got for sandstone? We have 1 and 3. Okay. Grey wool, 1 and 2. Stone, 64 and 1. Great. Now we just multiply those together and we're going to get the cost. There we go. If the item's got no value, let's exit, because we don't want him to take something if it's got no value. There's no point. So let's do execute if score temp cost temp value matches 0. Run return run tell raw at s. Do you know, I think this might be quicker if I just pop back here and grab this, copy, and put that on the end, and we'll say I don't want that. Maybe we even put something at the beginning like buyer. I suppose he's a buyer. I don't. You can do what you like with the tell raw. You can add buyer in a different color, etc., etc., etc. Reload. Let's get an item that doesn't have a cost then. Yellow wool? I think we gave yellow wool a cost. Let's go green wool. Do you want this? I don't want that. Yellow wool is 10. Yeah, cool. That's working. Let's not waste time doing more checks. Multiply the cost. So we just have to times the count by the value. Scoreboard. Players. Operation. So we've got a cost. Let's just use temp cost. Temp cost, temp value, times equals temp count dot temp value. So cost times count. Save that. And now that's probably going to go on the scoreboard as well, isn't it? Temp value. Let's have a look. Reload. How much is that worth? Oh no, oh yeah, so temp cost has now changed. So temp cost is now showing the total cost. So 1 wool is 10, but what if we had 2 wools? Okay, now we've got the 22. Yeah, okay, that's working. 64 stone, 64, 64. Yes, okay. Give the money to the player. That seems fair enough. Scoreboard. Players. Operation. At S. Money plus equals temp cost, temp value. Now my money's going up. Let's show me my money. Title at S on the action bar. We'll want 2 elements, so we'll have 1, 2. The first one, we'll have some text. We'll set it to bold as well. And we'll have a color. Text. Money, bold, color, green, and we're going to want to display a score, so we can do in here score. So that will consist of, that says score. This is a name. The name, I suppose, will be me. This will be the objective. And I want to display my money. And we better remove the item as well. Item, replace, entity, at S, weapon.main hand, and we'll just replace it with there. Okay, let's save that. So we've done the selling. That's basically done. Okay, how much money have I got at the moment? I've got 73. So this, how much is this worth? This was worth 10, wasn't it? 20, because there's 2 of them, so I should have 93. I should have to reload. What am I doing? I've not reloaded like 5 times this tutorial. Okay, let's press it. Should have 93. Now I've got 93. Green wool? He doesn't want that. Okay, you don't want that. Let's check my money. I've still got 93. Sandstone, how much is that worth? Oh, that was worth 3. Now I've got 96. Okay, so that works. And the player can check their money just by pressing tab. Obviously, if you're using the tab system, you can see everyone's money that's online. So if there was other people, it would be showing their money as well. Maybe you don't want that. Maybe you do. I like that system because we're finished. And it's sort of like you get that competition, don't you? Who can get the most money? Which is fun. But if we want the trigger, we're going to have something ticking. Now, it's only ticking, checking a score, so that's not very bad at all. But we do have a lot more stuff to do just for that trigger. I'm going to do it anyway, just in case you want it. So we need a first join advancement, because we need to enable the trigger. So what we'll do is we'll check when someone joins. If they've never joined before, this advancement will run as them, and it will enable the trigger for them. So let's go back to advancements. I'll reset that to default, and we'll call it first join. And we'll add that. And its trigger will be tick. So it's always running. And then it's going to find the player. In fact, I think we just have trigger tick, and then we have a reward, and we'll run a function. So we're just going to be doing that. Let's copy that. Let's put it into first join. But we want to be running the first join advancement. Save. Let's do a little check at the moment. Can I trigger value? No, it doesn't exist for me. Okay, so that's good. So first join, in first join, we'll enable the trigger. Scoreboard, players, enable, at S, value, save. Let's go back. I will do a reload, but you notice we're not enabling that in the reload. Trigger value is now there. So that's going to work for anyone, even if they've joined when the pack's running. We don't have to worry. But what do we want to do? So we're going to have to tick that. So let's go to tick, and we will execute as any player unless their score at S value matches 0, and if you enable the trigger or reset it, it sits on 0. So this is going to cover if they enter a score themselves and set it to -10, well, it's not 0, so it'll run. If they enter 100, it's not 0, so it'll run. If they just use trigger value, it will add 1, and it will become 1, which isn't 0. So run function trigger value. Save that. Okay, trigger value. Well, we have to reset the trigger, or they'll never be able to do it again. So scoreboard, objectives. This is where is my brain today? Players, reset at S value. Okay, so that's going to reset it so it's null. Now we enable it for them. That means they can use it again. Scoreboard, players, enable at S value. Now they can do it again. Is the player holding an item? I think we could just copy that, can't we? Let's save some time. Interact with buyer. Is the player holding an item? There we go. Let's just copy that. Copy. Bang. Store the selected item ID. Oh, that's the same as well. So let's go back to interacted with buyer and we'll just copy that. Calculate the value. Pretty much going to be the same as this. Interact with buyer, copy that, paste it, but we're going to run a different function. We're not going to run sell item macro. We're going to run trigger value macro. Save that. Okay. Trigger value macros. Store the item count, store the item cost, multiply the cost, display it. Well, if we look at sell item, store the item count, store the item cost. We don't need to check if it's got no value. That'll just make it display 0. Multiply the cost. Give the player the money. We don't want to do that. Remove it. Okay, so let's just copy all of that. Copy. Because it never goes wrong when you copy and paste. And I'm going to put it here beneath this, and then we can look at these to see which ones we want. Store the item count. Store the item count. Yeah, we'll keep that. Store the item cost. Keep that. Exit if the item has no value. We don't care because it will just become 0 and it will display 0. Multiply the cost. Yes, we want to do it. Give money to the player. No, not for checking the value. They don't get the money. And display the current money. Okay. D. Instead of saying money though, in here we'll say value. So let's change that just as value. So now this is obviously showing me my money. We can see score name is me, objective money. We don't want to be seeing that. We want to get this temp cost. Let's put you in there and temp value and put you in there. Save that. Let's reload. That's not how you do it. Let's trigger value. Green is worth nothing. Okay, well let's look at our load function. And we don't have green wool, so it would be worth nothing. It's not found it in the list, it returns a 0. So this is a nice way of sort of letting the player know, don't bother selling that. In fact, he won't buy it. I don't want that. Let's value the grey wool. 2. Oh, I'll get 2 for that then. Or if we instead had 33 grey wool, what would I get for that? I get 66. So now I know I can do a little trigger check, see how much it's worth, come along here, sell it to him. Let's have a press tab, 96 now, we'll sell that for 66. So we'll get 162. We do indeed. Okay, there we go. So we can sell any item providing we have defined it here. Yeah, I know if you wanted to literally sell any item, you've got a lot of typing to do. I suppose you could set it up so there was a default. Maybe you could have it so if I list the item, I'll give it a cost. And if the item's not listed, then we'll default to 1. So maybe here, if it has no value. So instead of exiting if it has no value, what we could do is just say, right, you've picked something that I haven't defined in the load function, in which case I will, so we'd say execute your score, temp cost, temp value matches 0, run, scoreboard players, set temp cost, temp value 1. So if it didn't have a score, it would be worth 1. That's probably a good way to do it, because then you can just literally sell anything. Anything you can hold in your hand can be sold for 1. And everything else that's sort of like, oh, it's a beacon, then you would come in here and you would sort of say, well, I'll have a beacon and the beacon's cost is going to be like 100, something like that. So I kind of like that way of doing it. If you just want to sell a few things, I like this way. If you want to sell lots of stuff and don't mind them being cheap, then I would make that little change that I just mentioned. Instead of exiting, we check if the cost is 0, and if it is 0, we set the cost to 1. Okay, basically done. Now I've got some score, I've got some money, I've got 162. I have nowhere to sell it though, or buy anything. I can't do anything with it. But score shops are quite common. Maybe we should make a score shop at some point. Anyway, I'll leave you there. I've rambled enough. Take care, have a great day, and I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.